Oh. Da 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 da, sexy music, da 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 da, intro. Hello, I am here with my lovely girls, Coffee, who's a potato, and Kirusha, who's a border collie. And I am here to review Fate, the Winx Saga Netflix show. Beware that I might curse in this video, however, I won't curse any more than they do in the show, if that's like any sort of guarantee of clean watching. It's not, because they do curse in the show. I have this review split into a list of things that I should that I'm going to talk about. There's 5 things, and let's just get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is fairies. Which one of them actually are in the show? I am sure that everybody who's watched the trailer noticed the changes to the main cast. So the first girl, the first witch, the first fairy that is in the show is Bloom. She's the protagonist, and to be honest, when it comes to characterization, I think she might be my favorite. She might be my favorite in the actual show. She does a pretty decent job of being the protagonist. She's quite strong. In general, the tone of the show is darker than the actual cartoon, of course. I think she reminds me a bit of Sabrina. Probably Sabrina is written a little bit better, but still I liked Bloom. I liked the way she was written and acted in the show. I liked the casting. It was just overall, I think, a good decision for this girl to play the main character. The second fairy is Stella. In the show, they made a decision to make her a bitch. She's mean, she's the bad person. She's even, I would even say that at first she starts like kind of a low-key villain, or at least the mean girl, as I previously said. I don't know why, because in the cartoon, Stella's main trait is her kindness towards others. She's just overall a very sweet character. So I wouldn't say that the change works. And also, I don't want to spoil too much. However, it happens towards a couple of characters where the bad things that they did were just kind of expected to gloss over. If you watched my review of Written in Red by Anne Bishop, you will know that I just think it's weird if something dark happens, if the writer of the thing doesn't really address it. There is a weird attitude towards bad things, which kind of reminded me of the attitude towards cannibalism in Written in Red by Anne Bishop. Then we have the third fairy, which is Musa, who is the first character whose ethnicity was changed. Because originally Musa is an Asian character, and in the show she's played by a Jewish actress, well, who is definitely not the same ethnicity as she is in the cartoon. And many people felt strongly about it. I feel strongly about it too, because it's such a pointless change. It doesn't bring anything new to the table. They just didn't cast an Asian actress for no reason. Moreover, her power is changed. She no longer is a fairy of music and like vibration and musical waves and stuff like that. She's a mind fairy. She controls the mind, and to be honest, I'm not as mad about it as I thought it would be. I still think it would be cool if they kept her music ability, but they just tweaked it to be more useful in combat. But instead of that, they gave her this mind ability. I don't know why. I don't think the plot of the show justifies this change sufficiently, but maybe in the second season it will be justified. And now we come to number 4, which is a terrible shame, because Flora, who I am sure was everybody's favorite. I did a poll on Reddit. I might later like cut in with actual statistics. The poll I did, 265 people took part. 32.8% voted for Flora. After that, 21.5% for Bloom, and the third was Stella with 15.8%. But Flora was overwhelmingly everybody's favorite. She's a Latina witch with the power of plants. She's replaced by Terra, who is supposedly her cousin. However, she's not Latina. She's definitely a white girl, and doesn't really well, because she's not Flora, she doesn't look like her at all. I think body positivity is great, and I'm very happy that at least one of the witches is plus sized. However, I feel that there is no reason to just not make, because so many changes were already made. They could have made Flora plus size. I will show some images, some art of Flora as plus size. And I am not sure if y'all had any experience with this before, but I have found that sometimes a film or a show is quite old, then it kind of, that fan art kind of gives it a second life. And if you, for example, look at Harry Potter fan art, in my experience, for the most part, Harry Potter is drawn as Indian, or in general just some kind of ethnic person, not a white boy. And even more often, Hermione is drawn as a black or Latina woman. And that's kind of canon in the fandom right now. And that happened to Flora. When I looked at the fan art of the girls throughout the years, if some changes were made, one of the most commonly implemented changes was already making Flora plus size, because like a curvier figure, it just doesn't do anything to detract from her character. Having a model-like silhouette wasn't really important to it. Just keep her Latina and make her plus size. There, I don't think it would be, it should have been a problem. But anyhow, let's come to Terra and her actual character. I think she's not treated the best in the show. She is a plus-sized character, and her plus-sizeness plays a big part in her character arc, or at least plays some part in her character arc. And I don't know if it's my place to be angry about it. So I won't really judge it. So let's just say that I noticed that the way that she looks in general, and the way how she feels about herself, which stems from her weight partly, does play a big part in her character arc. So do with that what you will. Now let's get to character number 4, which is Layla or Aisha. In the show they went with the name Aisha. She's still a fairy of the water, and in the first episode they established her as such a cool character because they give her, I don't know, she just has this cool attitude. She swims a lot, she eats all the time, like throughout the first episode she appears almost constantly with a snack in her hand, but from the second episode onward they completely abandon it. She's never seen eating anything again throughout the show, and she's the only character in the main cast who does not get a character arc. Nothing happens to the girl. Everything that she does to support or at the insistence of other main characters, which kind of sucks, to be honest. She's also the only remaining person of color, and she doesn't do anything except support other people, which I think it's just doing her really dirty, you know? Oh, and the number 6 is Tekna, who is gone. She's not in the show. She was my favorite. I don't know why they didn't include her, especially since she was so different, like visually, from the other girls, not only because of her short purple hair, but because of her high-tech aesthetic. And I think because the medley or the mix of technology and magic was so important to the show, to the cartoon, I think it would have been cool to see a fairy who is so into technology, because technology was kind of lacking throughout the show. There were smartphones and just constant references to Instagram, which I was really surprised by, because I didn't think it was like a thing that you could do, you know, like talk about a specific social media, but they do that. There isn't really any technology to speak of, and I think it would have been cool to include her. I am a bit bitter about that, but I'm also bitter about the way they treated Aisha and Flora and Terra, you know, so there is that. Then let me talk about tricks, who are also important to the cartoon. There are 3 witches, 3 fairies, who are called Icy, Darcy, and Stormy. They have the powers corresponding to their names, and they are kind of the mean girls and occasional villains throughout the show. In this TV series, they replaced them with a girl called Beatrix. Beatrix, and I made a joke, which I was very proud of, how that would be like replacing Fantastic Four with a character called, Metaphor. And I don't know. Feel free to laugh at that pun, but if you don't, please don't let me know, because I was really proud of the joke. Anyhow, I was really shitting on the idea because I don't think it's stupid. It's straight up stupid. Just, or at least I felt like it was stupid. But now, because Beatrix turned out to be such a cool villain, I actually think that it's a cool reference to the past. So you can see how your attitude can change, because I was really, really mad about this idea, especially because Tricks have this very nice aesthetic. They are fashion icons and they are just a joy to watch. But Beatrix is also very, I wouldn't say she's stylish, and I'll get back to clothes, but she is definitely cool. She has a specific like vibe and aggressive attitude, which I really, really admired, or at least very much liked. She is, I think, my favorite, or at least one of my favorite characters from the actual show. Like she and Bloom, but no, I like her better. She was just very good. She was great. So I'm no longer mad about that. Beatrix is a villain who kind of meddles in everything, to be honest. But what I really liked about her was her relationship with Bloom, the protagonist, and just in general how she had her fingers in all sorts of pies. I don't know how that particular phrase works, but you know what I mean. She just meddled and was behind many things. She was like, just whispering in everybody's ear, and I really liked her also. She established two very interesting relationships with two boys, and that's a segue into next thing, like thing number 2, which is boys. Not all the boys from the original cartoon are in the show. I would say most of them aren't, because there are actually only hold on, 1, 2, 3, 3.5 important boys in the show. The first one is of course Sky. He's still there. However, he's entangled in a love triangle with Bloom and Stella, which is pointless. There are love triangles that work. I don't actually agree with that. I think love triangles are, for the most part, unnecessary, and unless there is something behind it. Like for example, in Hunger Games, where Gale symbolizes like aggressive change and being okay with sacrifice and just all-out war, whereas Pita symbolizes just domesticity, family, and unconditional love and values like that. So when Katniss was choosing between the boys, she actually was also choosing between different sorts of lifestyles and values. The second very important boy is Riven, who is not Muse's boyfriend in the show. He's somebody else's sort of boyfriend though, and also has a little bit of a tension with another boy, and I don't want to spoil anymore, but he's still a bad boy, which I remember Riven being. However, he's different. He's also slightly wimpy, to be honest. He has those tough guy moments, but he also clearly has his issues and weak moments, and we allow boys to be emotional on this channel. But I mean, he displays weakness of character on several occasions, in my opinion, as well as like emotional weakness, but that I am okay with. He's just he's just weak. I would say he's weak, and that's it when it comes to the boys who were in the original show. 1.5 other boys. There is Dale, who is Terra's friend, and also has an interesting relationship dynamic with other characters. Can I spoil it? Is it a spoiler? Tiny spoiler. With Riven and Beatrix, they kind of have interesting relationship dynamic going on. I don't know if I would call it a love triangle. I would just say that it's a very interesting relationship dynamic, and honestly, I really liked watching it develop and how their loyalties shifted and stuff like that. But he started off as Terra's friend, as Terra's friend. And the fourth or like the third and a half boy, is Sam, who is Tara's brother, and he is in a relationship. However, he's not at all fleshed out as a character. He speaks maybe like 3 sentences, and like tiny spoiler, he is Musa's boyfriend. It doesn't really matter to the show, to be honest, because the only thing that he does is make out with Musa for the most. That's the only thing that he does, and that's it. He does one other thing, but you will see it also in the first 3 seconds where he appears. So I don't think that's much of a spoiler. Thing number 3. One of the most important aspects of the original show was fashion. Like, undoubtedly, Winx were actually one of the only cartoons where characters change their clothes not only, once per episode, sometimes multiple parts per episode. They didn't really repeat outfits at all, and moreover, when they're transformed into their fairy forms, they had the special outfits which also changed season to season. So looks really play a key part in every episode in the cartoon, and also the outfits are very important to the girl's self-expression. Every girl, even if they don't like care about fashion in the sense that fashion is not their passion, they still use clothes to express themselves and, to be honest, kind of establish their character. Like Tekna, as a fairy of technology, wears modern textures, forms, and materials. Aisha, who is sporty, wears sporty clothing, and also color coding and color palettes are very important to the show. And I think they did the show. In the show they just failed. They were dull, both in the sense of like color and also boringness, outfits, and they don't really use them to self-expression at all. I can't really take a screenshot. There was one actual dress that I remember. It was Stella's important event dress where she kind of looked like Jackie Kennedy in her pink getup, or at least the color was similar. That's the only outfit that I remember, and I should have remembered a ton of them because it was so important. They even barely stick to the color palettes that the no, they don't even stick to the color palettes established for the characters, and they were so important. I will link a video I mentioned is Styling Winx How It's Supposed to Be by Chai Tea. I will link it in the description. The artwork I am using in the film is made by Annalise Jensen and Silkanide. I will link both in the description as well. Where she styles different characters. The other show that kind of shows me how good the looks could have been is Euphoria, the HBO show. There they just went with the fashion. A lot of outfits for Euphoria would work for the girls in the show. Number 4. Let's get into a general overview of the show. The show strikes a weird balance between conservative and kind of risque, I'd say. By that I mean that it's really something that I appreciate, but all the characters in the show are underage. They are like 16, I think. All the characters are about 16, and they really dress in a rather modest and school appropriate way, and that I don't mind, but I still am salty about the lack of color or style. But I don't mind that they were mostly covered and school appropriate. I actually really like that despite the characters being played by adult actors, there aren't really things that you wouldn't get minor actors to do on screen. There isn't any nudity. There is one scene where a bra is shown, and not really, doesn't matter, a minor thing. However, on the other hand, they swear a lot. Like I didn't notice this for the first couple of episodes that they said fuck occasionally. However, in episode 3 or 4, there was a sentence. I heard a sentence. You let this sex addict lead you everywhere by your cock, and I was like, excuse me, in my Winx, right in front of my salad, I think actually it works because teenagers do swear, so I don't mind that. However, it was a shock, and I feel that it restricts potential audience because I think it's for some reason more socially accepted. I am talking about American sensibilities, by the way. It's more like socially accepted for, and I'm going by Riverdale and Sabrina, for teenagers to be in like a, or actors portraying teenagers to be like in a sexy situations rather than just cursing, because neither in Sabrina nor in Riverdale do they swear. They say things like hell or shit, but that's as far as they go. Whereas in Winx, where they stay covered to the neck, they say fuck. They say fuck quite a bit, which is funny. I don't know. I find it funny. Also, one more thing. The characters there smoke presumably fairy pot, and I also noticed that it's never referred to. I think definitely never as any specific drug, but they clearly smoke a thing that explicitly makes them feel high, which I think is also funny that you avoid naming the thing, but you're showing like shotgunning and, you know, partaking in a recreational drug. Um, that's weird to me, because I think if you partake, then you call it by its name, you know? You call it by its name. You call it by your name. You call it by my name and stuff like that. I heard somebody say that or maybe I read it somewhere, somebody mentioned that the show is homophobic, which I don't actually think it is, but I guess I could see it being taken that way. I just, to me, there is a relationship dynamic which is not between a couple of characters that I mentioned before, which is very interesting and maybe gay, maybe not. But I think because those are teenagers, they are still finding themselves. I think that it was kind of a cool portrayal. Maybe because also I was fond of some of the characters. I wish it was given more time, but I am not mad about it at all. And I think actually it was handled in a cool, nuanced way. And also I actually liked the way it was phrased and the way it was talked about by the characters. I really enjoyed it. Though it was very, very minor. I wouldn't say that there is a lot of LGBT plus representation on the show. But what there was, which I think there was, it was very, very small. When it comes to the tone, going back to the tone, it's very, very similar in the tone to Sabrina and Riverdale. And I do think that they chose this very chewy cartoon that is Winx just for nostalgia factor, and because they really strayed quite far away from the original premise. I mean, I don't think I would have minded that much, but I would really have preferred if they just went with something from the show and made it darker, but instead it kind of feels like generic Stranger Things or Sabrina Big Bad. Also, the design of the bad creatures really reminded me of the Demogorgon from Stranger Things, and I really didn't like the design of the main evil person. I didn't like the aesthetic of the main evil person. I'm sure there was some thought behind it, but since the show is kind of campy a bit, I would have rather that instead of being like a regular person, the evil character was like a straight up villainous villain, you know? Something that is, I think, very good about the show is the special effects. I think they were really satisfying. I really loved the way the different powers were animated. I liked Tara's flower power the least, but Aisha's water power or Bloom's fire power, they were really, really nicely animated, like in a professional way, and it really looked, you know, maybe not real, but definitely good enough and better than I would have expected from a Netflix show. And what I really liked as well was, I really loved the intro. It was just wing shapes of different powers, like light or water, like glowy wings shifting between different colors and materials or substances, I guess, with the word fate in the middle, and I think it was reminiscent of the main show enough. It's like it was to the point, colorful, cute, campy, reminiscent of the original show, because you know it referenced Winx, and I really, really liked it. So let's wrap it up with point number 5, which is what I think about it. I think definitely you cannot ignore the whitewashing, and yeah, I'm very salty about that. I don't think, like can we call it what it is? Like, it's racist to do that, and I think we grew beyond that. And the show, like the original cartoon cast was half people of color, and I'm not going to debate whether that's enough or not enough in the original cartoon. However, making it less in 2021, make it less people of color, less inclusive in 2020, I think it's just unacceptable, and I feel very strongly about it. I feel very strongly about them getting rid of everybody's favorite character, which is Flora. I don't like that Aisha didn't have a character arc. Yeah, so my biggest gripe is with the racism, which I hope I am allowed to call out. Yeah, so that's my biggest gripe in general. My second gripe is very, very minor in comparison to the first one, but still pretty big in general terms, because I hate the fashion, which was very important in the show, as I said before. So that's strike 1 and strike 2. And that's a shame, because apart from that, I actually really enjoyed the dissonance between cursing and conservative visuals. I enjoyed Beatrix for sure. I enjoyed Bloom. I hated Stella as well. But I enjoyed the protagonist and the main and also one of the villains. And I think, and I don't know, the show had its strong points, but and it didn't have those two, but most of all one big problem, it would have been a fine weekend watch. The show clearly aims to target the demographic of the people who grew up watching the cartoon, but because it references the cartoon so little, it changes the main cast so much, it ends up being not satisfying for the people who expected that nostalgia. Some people might continue anger watching it. I don't think many people enjoyed it. I hope they will fix for the second season, if there is one, they fix the issues, they give Aisha a character arc, because Flora is established as Terra's cousin. I hope that they bring her back. Well, Musa won't become Asian, but what can you do? I don't think the show can come back and be closer to the original cartoon. So I think people might continue anger watching it for a season or two to see whether it will fizzle out, and then they will stop. So it's not set for long success, but I feel that it might have been the plan all along. This show was not made to be a good show. It was made to make money, I feel, which is stupid. If it was meant to be good, it's not. I would give it 2 out of 5 stars, but I feel bad doing even that because of the the whitewashing issue. So I don't know. I don't recommend it. I think because of that problem, you just shouldn't support it. I watched it, so you don't have to. I'm going to hug Kirusha and Tater Tot as well from you. I hope you enjoyed this video, even if you don't really enjoy Winx particularly. If you like this sort of content, or in general, I seem like a cool person, you should definitely subscribe or check out my other social media. I am Everycraft on everywhere. The links are in the description box. I also have an Instagram for my dog, which is also linked there. The next video will be a January book wrap-up with just short reviews of each of them. I hope to see you then. Cheers!